till the day he carried by the big six. Domino, come.
New York City one take.
Yo, Kendrick Lamar has such an amazing pen that he can afford to write for others, write guest features, write his own albums, and also toss away amazing verses like this one from his Hot 97 Funk Flex freestyle in 2012.
The day I turned 17 is the day that a lesson inside my lifetime come across a close line, every stick of my cosign.
This verse is from the Good Kid, Mad City era. It was released on YouTube in September 2012, which is just 1 month before Good Kid, Mad City officially released in October 2012.
Hey y'all, I am a one-man show. I record, edit the video myself, create the thumbnail, everything, so hitting like and subscribe does help a bunch. Thanks so much. Back to the video.
And it's no doubt a throwaway from those same Good Kid, Mad City studio sessions. Kendrick is rapping over the Who Shot Ya beat by Biggie,
Separate the weak from the opposite.
which is fitting because the verse revolves around Kendrick's dad, fear of him being shot.
Tony, my biggest fear is to hear Kendrick disappeared in the fire out here and I didn't help.
So the verse revolves around this conversation that Kendrick's dad is having at the domino table with a friend named Tony. And Kendrick's dad is expressing to Tony that he fears for Kendrick's safety as Kendrick tries to navigate the streets of Compton and LA in general.
And Tony, my biggest fear is to hear Kendrick disappeared in the fire out here and I didn't help.
And for those who don't know, I mentioned domino table. Dominoes is a numbers game where players take turns matching and playing rectangular tiles. One common way to play dominoes is called fives, where you score by placing a tile. So all the sum of the exposed domino ends equals a multiple of 5. So for example, 5, 10, 15, you score in fives. So dominoes is very math focused. It requires you to quickly add the table's visible dots to your tile's value in your hand so you can score at a multiple of 5. All while your cousin or your uncle or your dad is screaming in your ear, trying to mess up your math and get you off your game. It never works though. So to all the black people watching, shout out to the blacks. It's a game very closely linked with our culture. Why? I don't really know, but we all have memories of our uncles and our cousins and just our family in general playing dominoes at the dining room table, shouting at each other.
Team on mine, goddammit. Team on this nigga. Play that blank six, nigga. 25 and domino, goddammit.
And if it's one thing we learned from Good Kid, Mad City, it's that Kendrick's dad loves his dominoes.
Guy, where my motherfucking dominoes at? It's the second time I asked you to bring my fucking dominoes.
Sidebar, I even have an uncle who keeps a full domino set and table in the trunk of his car, just in case goes down and we have to break out in a domino game. It's that serious. So anyway, the verse revolves around this conversation at the domino table.
Heard a conversation with my father talking to his favorite partner at the domino table
Between Kendrick's dad and Kendrick's dad's friend named Tony. And keep that in mind. It's important because this verse ends with the double entendre on the metaphor of dominoes. So Kendrick's dad and Tony are talking. They're probably having a drink or two, whatever their vice is. They're playing dominoes, chopping it up. And Tony just happens to mention, oh, guess what I saw the other day?
Tony had told him that he saw a young nigga hopping out, busting like 4 charters.
Saw these young guys hopping out, shooting the guns. It looks like they were on drugs. Like, it's crazy out here. And in the midst of this casual conversation, once Tony says that to Kendrick's dad immediately sobers up because it triggers this worry that he has about Kendrick.
And I can smell the soberness evaporating by itself.
It triggers this fear. But when Tony brings up the shooting that he witnessed earlier, it immediately sobers up Kendrick's dad and puts him in a state of worry. And he says his biggest fear is Kendrick getting caught in the middle of some street stuff and basically getting killed.
He said, Tony, my biggest fear is to hear Kendrick disappeared in the fire out here and I didn't help.
Now, this is something that Kendrick even expresses in his own music as well. Like getting caught up in street activities and gang activities that he has nothing to do with. Like Kendrick repeatedly admits that he's not in the gang, he's not a street guy, but he's constantly being judged or being punished just because of where he lives.
So if I can give him the game to hydroplane his decisions in life.
And I love the use of the term hydroplane in these bars. I'll get back to that in a second.
So if I can give him the game to hydroplane his decisions in life so he can go further than the streets and remain to be on the honor roll.
But this is basically the desire of most black fathers who grew up in the streets but eventually become well-to-do family men. It's this anxiety of having a male child, a young boy, and realizing that he's going to have to navigate some of the same treachery that you did, and you're desperately trying to veer him off that path. Hence Kendrick's use of the term hydroplane. So Kendrick's dad basically wants him to swerve hydroplane completely off of that path and just become a good kid, make the honor roll, just be an overall productive member of society. Now, I know to some people watching this may seem like just a simple wish. Like you just want your kid to just make the honor roll and be a productive member of society. Like why not wish for something more? Why not wish for your kid to become a doctor or a lawyer, a president, so like something more specific and prestigious? But I think the simplicity of this wish emphasizes the reality of the environment that they're living in, where wishing for your son to simply not get killed is a sobering moment. It really makes you visualize and empathize with how they're living and the environment that they have to grow up in. And then we get to the climax of the verse. And honestly, this is my personal favorite Kendrick punchline ever.
Sacrifice my life, even if that shit my mama though, till the day he carried by the big 6 Domino. Come.
So Kendrick's dad is continuing this conversation with Tony. He's telling Tony he just wants Kendrick to go on the right path despite the obstacles currently in his path. And Kendrick's dad says he will sacrifice his own life to keep Kendrick on this path, to protect him, to advise him, even if it kills him.
Sacrifice my life, even if that shit my mama don't.
Which is, I think it's a cool play on words, like a cool little word play, like I'll sacrifice my life even if it kills me. It's kind of saying the same thing twice, but the second time he says it adds this sense of urgency and seriousness to the tone of the verse. So yeah, Kendrick's dad, he's saying he's going to continue to try to protect and advise Kendrick until Kendrick is carried by the big 6. Now, carried by the big 6, it's a term that basically means that someone is dead. It's referencing 6 gentlemen or pallbearers carrying a casket to a hearse or to a funeral. It's a common term. Carried by the big 6 basically means someone is dead. But here's the double entendre. Big 6 is also a reference to the double 6 domino, which we already referenced. Kendrick's dad is having this conversation while playing dominoes. And the big 6 domino, it's significant because it's the highest value domino in the game of dominoes. It's often the starting tile in the game. Like whoever has the biggest domino usually goes first. So if you happen to have the big 6 in your hand, you go first because it's the biggest domino. So Kendrick uses this big 6 metaphor to reference his dad's dying wish to always be by his side until he's carried by the big 6. And also to conclude the domino reference that he started the verse with. And then Kendrick ends his verse proclaiming domino.
Till the day he carried by the big 6 Domino.
Which is what you shout in the game of dominoes as you play your last tile, which signals the end of a domino round.
25 in Domino, goddammit.
Kendrick shouts it as he ends his verse. It's genius writing. And yo, look at Kendrick's face as he says this. This is something that actually happened. This is a conversation that actually happened. He's so moved by the truth and authenticity of what he's saying that he's on the verge of tears. This is hip hop. This is hip hop. You know, the other day I had someone ask me, why does truth and authenticity matter in hip hop? It is just music. This right here is why it matters. This right here is why authenticity and truth matters in hip hop. Because we get artists like this, we get verses like this. I'll end the video by saying this. I know some of y'all might like different eras of Kendrick. Some of y'all might like GNX, cocky Kendrick. Some of y'all might like super hungry Kendrick, wanna be heard from the OD EP era. But this right here, Good Kid, Mad City era, like fresh off Section 80, going into Good Kid, Mad City. This is my favorite era of Kendrick. I think this is peak creativity Kendrick. I think this is when Kendrick was at his creative prime. And any nuggets, any unreleased verses or things that I can find from Kendrick in this era, I need all that. Kendrick from that era, to me, is why technically he's one of the greatest of all time in terms of skill. Section 80, Good Kid, Mad City era, this is my favorite era of Kendrick, man. And mind you, this freestyle is happening on Funk Flex's show. And Funk Flex is someone who historically just loves to hate on the West Coast. Funk Flex is someone who would have loved to have Kendrick come on his show, freestyle, and stumble and fail. Especially at a time where everyone was calling Kendrick the golden child, despite Kendrick not even having a proper album out. A lot of people at this point in 2012, before Good Kid, Mad City, a lot of people had never even heard of him. So Funk Flex would have really loved for Kendrick to call, you got a West Coast savior, you got this guy, okay, bring him up here. He would have loved to see Kendrick fail. I mean, this is Funk Flex. This is someone who had Griselda, Benny the Butcher, and Conway freestyle on this show, gas it, and just kept a straight face as if they wasn't gassing it. Even this guy, Funk Flex, loses his when Kendrick drops that big 6 metaphor.
Till the day he carried by the big 6 Domino. Come.
New York City One Take. Rappers learned something today.
This is undeniable talent. And if I had to place his verse on Good Kid, Mad City, let's say this was never a lost verse, let's say it stays on the album, I would place this verse in terms of story and the concept of Good Kid, Mad City, because we all know Good Kid, Mad City. It's a story that Kendrick is telling. I would have placed this right after The Art of Peer Pressure. This is at the point in the album where Kendrick is being involved in these mischievous activities with his friends, which is uncharacteristic of him. Obviously, backseat freestyle, they're taking a ride. Art of Peer Pressure, they're doing a home invasion. Money Trees, the song starts out with me and my trying to get it. So he's with his friends. And then I think thematically with this album, this Big Six Domino verse, after Kendrick gets involved in a home invasion and his mom calls him and says, oh, wait, what you doing, Kendrick? I think this verse can come in a song after Art of Peer Pressure. It can be looked at as Kendrick's dad kind of having a sixth sense with Kendrick. Like, yo, Kendrick is out doing something bad. His mom happens to call him. And then his dad just so happens to have a conversation like, yo, I hope he stays out of trouble. And I hope he's not out there doing the wrong things. And then the album will go directly into Money Trees. Like, yo, Kendrick is still out here like being a dickhead, like doing things he's not supposed to do. So yeah, I think thematically it works too. So anyways, what do y'all think of this verse? I think, man, this is amazing verse. Good Kid, Mad City era. I'm down for any Kendrick content that has to do in the Good Kid, Mad City, Section 80 era, because those are like my two favorite Kendrick projects. So anyways, that's all I got for today. Y'all play dominoes? Let me know. Y'all play dominoes? Do y'all know how to play dominoes? Tell me some domino stories that you got in the comments, because I want to hear those. Anyway, Top 5 Rap website. Be sure to subscribe. Top5rapwebsite.com. Peace.